Let me talk about why I chose Feral Futures as a title. And I'll start with it chose me. It's one of those moments where the name came to me, which I was so grateful for because sometimes, actually, if you notice, I'm not really great at titles for articles and things. I used to be. I used to be. But something has shifted in the way that my brain puts ideas together. So I was so grateful when I had the idea for the podcast. I knew I wanted to start that back up again, and the name just landed in my brain. It was a perfect match. The moment I heard it, I knew that that's what I was wanting to communicate. So here is my side of it, what I added to it. We don't know what future we're going into. And I know for a lot of us, myself included, sometimes it's always terrifying, depending upon the person. Some people are just in a chronic state of anxiety and fear about the future right now. For others of us, it fluctuates depending upon how we're feeling, depending upon what news cycle we're tapped into, depending upon how our friends and family are, what they're talking about, and whatever we're picking up in the soup of humanity. So we we have been domesticated in so many ways. And in some ways, that domestication is, first of all, necessary. I definitely could see arguments for it being necessary. It's kept us from doing more damage to one another. And in other ways, it's it's done a lot of harm and damage because we're talking about taking the wildness out of a biological being. And I know that I'm looking at some definitions right now. So, feral being an adjective, a descriptor, um, meaning to exist in a wild or untamed state, meaning to return to an untamed state from domestication, and also meaning of or suggestive of a wild animal, semicolon savage. So savage has an interesting orientation too, and it doesn't mean what we have been conditioned to mean at its original. Of course, I'm looking it up, but I don't know that I'm going to find the deeper, older meaning of savage. Um, okay, okay, so one of the original meanings of the word comes from Middle French, sauvage, meaning wild or untamed. So we've just come back full circle on that. And it comes from the late Latin salvaticus, meaning of the woods. And it has been, of course, turned into a word that's meant to be an insult or a diminishment of people. I am currently in a very active neighborhood. It's actually the most active, noisy neighborhood I have been in since I've been in this area. So we'll see if that is a little better because we don't need to have all their conversations in the background. Okay, so savage is a really beautiful word. Wild, undomesticated, untamed, wild, uncultivated, of the land, ferocious, and apparently circa 1300s. So it was turned into a word to belittle people who lived off the land, lived with the land, um, who didn't fully cover their bodies with pieces of cloth. Okay. Now, there's a lot that goes with calling something savage that in our current use of language automatically separates the speaker from the land. And so many people, at least in my world, are talking about going back to the land. This has been going on for decades. This has been going on for my entire life. But certainly in the last 5 years, it's become, and probably I think before 2020. But what I'm saying is, we're having a revival of a lot of people, a lot of city folks who are very interested, and many who have. They've been working on it quietly in the background for years, and they took off. Feral Futures, when that name occurred to me, it represents a lot of what's going on. It represents the people who have returned themselves to the land. So it's like a very literal expression of that. And it's also for those of us who are, for whatever reason, choosing to stay engaged with the world that's falling apart. So the commercialized, hyper capitalized, institutionalized world that is coming apart, we don't know what the future is going to bring, and there is an untamed, undomesticated, uncontrolled quality to our future. And I see a need for us to return ourselves, at least in part, to an undomesticated, untamed, wild expression of our humanity. And I am speaking of returning our attention towards the spiralic nature of things, the seasonal nature of things, the cyclical nature of things, returning ourselves to a relationship with our stars, the things that grow out of the ground, the fact that we have these beautiful bodies that when we allow ourselves to be, when we allow this vessel to be tuned and attuned to the world around us, we get so much more information than if we just limit our tuning in to the devices that have been created for us as communication, as mediums of communication. The quality and depth and breadth of information and imagination, but information that comes from our dreaming source, dream time, if you want to call it that, is incredible. The amount of information and guidance and knowing that comes from our intuitive process is incredible. We have adapted to externalized validation and externalized information. And it is my belief that we are now being given the opportunity to turn our attention back into developing the skills of being the primary instrument in contact with the divine and in contact with our life. If you don't like the language of divinity, that does not bother me. That does not diminish my relationship with that experience. If it's just life for you in biology, so be it. That does not change the fact that your body is a magnificent instrument, and learning how to tune yourself back into the rest of the world around you is, in my belief, our path to liberation on so many different levels. Does not necessarily mean that we won't still interact with the banking system or that we won't still interact with commerce. What I am interested in participating in is being one of the voices that talks about reclaiming a degree of ferality, a degree of trust in the wildness of our natures, which I do not believe has gone away. It has just been suppressed and When I say suppressed, there's a lot of other devastating language that comes up with this. So I understand for myself, my own feral nature has not disappeared. It has just been so many things: neglected, abused, ridiculed, diminished, confined, chained, starved, beaten into submission. You know, these are the things that we have done in order to survive in this external world that very few of us actually enjoy participating in. You know, my entire life, there's been ongoing commentary about how this system doesn't work. So yes, the system it's coming down, it's coming apart, and new things are being built up and created in its place. Some of it using the bones of the previous system. That's also something that we do as humans. We build upon the things of the past. I'm just going to throw this out there for those of you who are into this. If you want to go look at some of the channels on YouTube that talk about old world maps and old world history, and this recognition that some people who love doing that research have about how our world has been built on top of other worlds. And it wasn't just churches and cathedrals, it's cities and towns. You can go look into people who talk about Tartaria. That's fascinating. You can go look at folks who have sites that talk about the mud floods and the earthquakes and the fires that just continue to move through history on a cyclical nature, and the loss of records, star forts. You know, there's some fascinating structures out there and pieces of history that suggest that we have for a very long time been a species that builds on top of previous historical cycles. So you will see things like the banking industry right now being built. It's being reconfigured, but it's being perhaps is what it looks like right now, that it's being built on, or at least with, the structure of the existing banking system. That's one example that I am paying attention to. And still, whatever this time is that we're in right now, we don't know. And for folks who are out there saying they know, I know there's a lot of prophecy talking and, you know, again, fascinating information. And still, those folks, when someone prophesizes, when an oracle gives their message, part of the reason why things are uploaded, downloaded, and expressed in vague ways or in riddles is because we still have free will. We still have agency. So, yes, the trajectory suggests that this is the direction that the times are moving in. And that would be the oracle's expression. And also, humanity has agency. Humanity has creative choice. Humanity has the power and will to act, should we choose to do so. And so, resurrecting part of our wild, untamed nature, because the corrals, CORRALS, that we have been existing in, those things are being brought to the ground, at least in the world that I'm looking at, in the people that I am experiencing. And you're probably not listening to this if you don't have some element of systems disintegrating around you and some chaos. And the wildness has chaos to it, but understand that chaos has purpose, which is something that I think the human mind, in its pursuit of security in structure. The human mind has convinced itself that something that is chaotic is unstructured, when actually there is structure to it, there is purpose to it, there is sense making to it. We just are required to cooperate with it and engage with it in very, very different ways. So I am encouraging the listeners of this podcast to explore what it is to be feral in your own life, in your own mind, in your own expression, in the relationships that you're pursuing and developing right now, in the changes that you're wanting to make or being required to make in your life. The domesticity that we have become accustomed to is also coming undone. And that is not to say, as in, I cannot say that we will not recognize the world in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15, but it's very likely that a lot of us won't recognize, at least on a surface level, what we're looking at. If you are a pattern watcher or a pattern matcher, you will most likely find familiarity in the patterns. But a lot of the surface level that we've become accustomed to, it's dissolving. And I believe it's in our best interest to participate in the dissolving, in the dissolution of it. And also be the ones who are contributing to reimagining or imagining. Actually, I've been talking about this for a few years now. The re part, the going back. I would like to see what we can do and to see how much we can do without repeating. And I don't know if that's a reasonable request. I don't know, because there's a lot of great things that have happened in the past. I'm thinking of permaculture right now. That's something that's coming up. And so having an understanding of energy systems and how to develop systems so that they continuously replenish one another. That's a permaculture practice. And that would be a useful practice to take with us into the future. So I have been interrupting my use of the word re, for the past several years. And apparently feel the need to do that right now as well. But imagining and contributing to the changes that are presenting themselves as opportunities to us. Understanding that we are the ones who have the agency and the ability to create at least some of the changes that some of us have been saying all of our lives we would like to see in the world. And I believe it starts with us individually and then moves out into our closest circles and then on out into whomever is willing to tap in to what we're doing and participate in some way, whether that's encouraging us on or buying into our business or taking the inspiration that we present and building something of their own. There's so many ways that we can contribute to the betterment of one another's lives. And letting go of a lot of our preconceived notions, which is something that I spoke about in the last episode, and making ourselves available to the scary, intimidating reality of wildness and unpredictability and uncertainty. These are not bad things. And I do believe these times are calling for our willingness to participate in those things, those ways of being. So Feral Futures is My, I think in one way it's my devotion to my own willingness to participate in a future that is unknown to me. I am both excited and, mm, I'll use the word intimidated. I've been using that word a lot instead of afraid. Um, Intimidated by what that means, what it means to be walking into a wild, untamed present and future. And my hope is that I can share stories from my own life that can help inspire you and give you again some perspective shifts. I think that's probably one of my secret superpowers, a secret unbeknownst to me for a very long time until people started making comments about how the way that I experience life and the things that I think about life have helped them help other people see things a little bit differently. We all have gifts that we don't recognize as gifts. They're just the way that we are. And until somebody says, "Oh wow, you really helped me experience something new today in this way," until someone is able to reflect ourselves back to us, we often miss. We often miss ourselves. We don't see. And it can be very helpful to see ourselves. It can be very, very helpful to see some of the things that we bring as blessings to those around us. So, um, this is one of the reasons why in the past I have encouraged you to let people know when they impact you in positive ways. Um, Not everybody's going to be able to hear you, but some people will hear that and develop an appreciation for themselves. And it's okay for us to have an appreciation of ourselves and the gifts that we come into this life with. It helps us, some of us, continue to cultivate and care for those gifts, which we should be doing. So I am going to um, pause and close this here, and I will come back at another time with a different part of the message. As always, I hope that something was beneficial to you here, something useful and beneficial, even if it was encouragement or inspiration. Inspiration is a big deal, actually. That's no small thing to be inspired by life and the people and the beings in it. So please carry your inspiration out into the world. And until next time, take care.